Well. Welcome, my friends, to this fine radio program and podcast called Smokin' and Toastin'. And we are live in beautiful Beverly Hills, California, where Ian has just lit his, I started to say your first cigar of the day, but that would be a lie.
No, this is the second cigar of the day. This is what I call research, by the way.
Yes, and it's important to do research when you do a show like Smokin' and Toastin'.
So I am researching this cigar for your benefit, so you can find out what this cigar is all about.
And any initial research thoughts as we get started here?
Oh, this is a great cigar.
Yeah, you're actually familiar with this one, aren't you?
I am actually. So this is an Arturo Fuente Grand Reserva Hemingway series.
Show that bad boy to the camera.
The Hemingway
like
series. This is one of the first cigars that got me into smoking cigars. This is a classic stick, right?
Yeah, it is one of those everyone has to try one at some point classics. It absolutely
yes, and as
is.
a matter of fact, our engineer will be trying his first one of these today.
Oh, very nice.
Well.
I love that. Well, we are doing Smokin' and Toastin'. We've been on the road before, but we've never been on the road this far from our normal destination. We're in beautiful Beverly Hills, California, at an amazing place, and I'm telling you, I love it already. The Buena Vista Cigar Club and Lounge. We're right on what they call Little Santa Monica, if you're familiar with Los Angeles. But the address, because I know you're going to want to come here, is 9715 Santa Monica Boulevard, Beverly Hills, California.
This place has the
out in
vibe.
Los Angeles.
Like,
it does. Now, this is a small place. It's not a large place, but it's in one of the most smoking unfriendly cities in the United States, which is Beverly Hills, California. It's really, really difficult. If you wanted to open up a smoking lounge in Beverly Hills, good luck. It would not be an easy thing to do.
That would be a definite uphill battle.
The owners and the proprietors, Rigo Fernandez and his wife, have been operating this one for some time. We're going to try and drag her in front of a microphone here in a little while to tell us exactly how long. But they have been operating this thing, and it is absolutely beautiful. So I wish we'd had camera on Adam on the Wheels of Steel just then, because he took his first drag of his Arturo Fuente Hemingway and got this wow look on his face. So that was absolutely awesome. So welcome to the show. We have so much to do. We're doing our first show ever from California, from the heart of Los Angeles.
Awesome,
yeah, so we're having a great time. I don't know if you had a chance to catch our extra, but at the time we normally put the show up, we put up a short little extra explaining that we'd be starting a little bit later today. One of the reasons is because the Buena Vista Cigar Club doesn't open until 4 o'clock.
Right.
They're open from 4 until, I think, closing time, till 2 a.m. So.
And we even said on the primer earlier that one of the reasons they actually get around some of the laws here, one of the loopholes that they managed to work with is the cigar laws, the smoking laws, are meant in part to protect employees from secondhand
smoke. Exactly.
And so one of the ways they get around is the only employees here are
Rigo
the owner
and
his wife.
Yeah.
And so because of that, they have limited hours. They still have to have a life.
Right. Exactly. They can't open at 6 a.m.
And one of them has to be here every day.
Yeah. Yeah. 7 days a week
to make this work.
Open 7 days a week.
So
now,
I'm gonna tell you.
Talk about that, because I want to punch.
Yes, I was going to say you're falling behind there, and you got a bigger cigar than I got. So this Arturo Fuente Grand Reserva Hemingway series is such a classic cigar. This is on the mild side. I would say it might not even quite reach medium. It might barely reach medium, but it is a full, wonderful flavor cigar. Very creamy, very gentle kind of smoke to it. It smells, the pre-light sniff on this, when you draw it across your nose, has very much the earthy flavors, the earthy notes. It smells like cigar tobacco. It smells like that classic humidor smell that you expect.
That sort of cedary.
Yes, and it's such a wonderful thing. And then the construction on these things are absolutely beautiful. It's got a mostly closed foot on it. It makes it real easy to light, too. They make a shorter version of this called the Short Story, which is, I highly recommend, if you're even interested in trying a nice mild cigar, this is the series to try. The flavor develops. This is so cedary. It It's got a little bit of leather, lots of nutty flavors in this, like kind of macadamia, kind of earthy tones. I mean, this thing is just a flavor bomb of wonderfulness. And I think the way we're going to set this up today is I'm going to tell you that much about the initial light on this. And I'm going to let Cruz talk about it. And I think every segment we come up to, we'll just have a little update on our cigars.
Update on how the smoke is doing. Well, I chose something actually very different from yours, although I will say that is just one of my all-time favorite smokes. I just love it. I'm a little nostalgic, actually, when I smoke one of those.
And I haven't smoked one of these in a long time, so for me it was like, hey, let's just do this on a show today.
It's awesome. Well, I have chosen a cigar, a little bigger ring gauge than I normally do, but I just have loved everything that I've ever tried in the My Father Cigars line, and this one is, and it's been out for several years, the Jaime Garcia Reserva Especial, and this is a nice, I don't know if you call that like a extra thick Robusto or a double Robusto, because it's about Robusto length, but it's definitely a little bit thicker than your standard Robusto Gordo. I'll take that. So that's what both of these came out of the humidor here at the Buena Vista Cigar Club. Now, they don't have a large humidor. It's not a walk-in. It's a sliding glass front humidor. But I think you would agree it's extremely well curated.
Yes.
The choices they have are really just perfect. You know?
They're well thought out, because you have everything from a very classic, mild cigar to a full-flavored, and they have everything price range-wise from something, just to have at the end of the day, or something to have when you're celebrating.
Right, exactly. That's perfectly put. And, this could almost be a celebration cigar. The first light of this, I really get, and I loved it, by the way, on the pre-light, just smelling the cigar. It was kind of traditional tobacco flavors, but it had this added sort of richness. It was almost like, the smell I'm talking about here is a very pleasant one, but when you smell moist soil,
yes,
and it just smells so rich and earthy. That's kind of what it smelled like. It had that almost like rainforest soil sort of smell to it. It was really, really attractive.
It's called
loam. Thank you. That's the word I was looking for.
I don't know where I just got that word from.
I don't know, but
in my head and worked.
The word of the day is loam. So we have lit this. I've got maybe the first, quarter inch or so smoke. And I'm telling you, it's already kind of settled down. It's not harsh on the light. It's already kind of settled down, and it's really got a beautiful flavor to it. I'm detecting leather, and oddly enough, because it's such a different cigar from that one, but some nuttiness on this one. It's just a little, it's maybe a little darker flavor, a little darker sort of nuttiness. It very well could be, yes. It very well could be. So,
nuttiness comes in all kinds of ways on a cigar.
Well, it does, yeah. And so when I think of that, I think of that sort of light, sort of like almost almondy kind of nuttiness. And this is more like, I don't know, like a macadamia or something that has just a little more fullness to the nut taste. A little
more bitter shell.
Yes, thank you. But boy, you're really good at this. You should think about being on some kind of a show where you talk about cigars.
A career. We'll see what happens.
So I understand your friends are giving you a hard time about being on the show.
So I have a couple old high school friends that are just angry with me for having a job where I smoke cigars and talk about craft
beers
and craft spirits, and it just angers them to no end.
Well, it's I've told you this. I've told my wife, if I ever complain about my job, she has permission to just smack me down because we're in Beverly Hills, California. We're sitting in this wonderfully apportioned older room, and the Buena Vista Cigar Club is small, but it is two-story. This is we're up on the loft story, so we're kind of overlooking the main room. They've got the air purifiers running. It does not smell smoky in here at all, and we're kind of like almost reclining and enjoying this
and a little bit
beautiful
of Robert Cray on the
there's nothing to not like about this. No, the music selection is great. They do have TVs down there. I came down here a couple of days ago and got to watch the Rockets on the screen, which was kind of fun for reminding me of home. But I've been all over Los Angeles in the past few days, and one of the things that I've noticed is that every cigar lounge I've gone to, every cigar store that I've stuck my nose into to try to see what it's like, the lounges are full. People are looking for a place to smoke because it's difficult to find a place where it's where it's really acceptable to smoke in the greater Los Angeles area here. And this is just a place that is so comfortable and inviting. And even though it's small, there are plenty of seats. This place could be full and it'd still be really comfortable. And that's one of the things that I really like about it.
They got enough smoke eaters going on in here too to make sure it's clear. Plus, the ceilings are high. We're actually in the second tier, like you said, and it's got the ceiling above us, and we're not seeing smoke. There's people downstairs smoking. We're not seeing a bunch of smoke accumulation. Right. So they've got that drawing out pretty nice, which I always appreciate because. Especially, like, I'm not doing it today, but when you're wearing contacts, sometimes that smoky air can really get to you.
Right, can dry the contacts out and make you kind of uncomfortable. Well, we have, I think, a really good show coming for you today. We're going to try to talk with both Rigo, the proprietor, and his wife as well, if we can drag both of them onto the show. They've been, a little hesitant to come and talk on the microphone, but we assured them it would be a wonderful thing. So we want to have them on. We're working on making sure that happens. And we're going to be tasting some California beers today, or some West Coast beers. One of the things we want to do on these road trips, whenever we can take them, is see if we can't find something that isn't as easy to find, back in our home studio.
The locals.
Yeah, right, exactly. So we want to drink what California's drinking. So I've tried to keep my eyes open at different places, and we're going to be tasting a beer in the next segment that I noticed immediately seemed to be on tap everywhere. I'm not saying I go to a lot of bars. I'm just saying I noticed that as I would walk by, perhaps, and see the taps from afar, peering in the window, like a child in front of the candy store. But I just noticed this was on tap a number of the places that I went to the Rainbow Cafe for dinner. They had it on tap in the bar there. Went to the Whiskey A Go-Go for a show. They had it on tap there. And then noticed it, for sale pretty much everywhere that I went that was, that had beer in 6 or 12 packs. So it seemed like maybe it was a thing here in California. So we'll try that on the show today. We'll also try a little bit of bourbon, and we'll give you an ongoing report, because I think that's one thing sometimes we fail to do on these live shows, is really kind of continue to describe what's going on with the cigar,
because it does change over time. Like a lot of times they develop, and you get great flavors all throughout the experience.
And I'll tell you something that I've been enjoying doing lately. I don't know if this is weird or something you're supposed to do, but when the cigar is burning like mine is now, it's not putting out just tons of smoke, but it is putting off a little smoke. I enjoy just smelling the smoke as it burns off the cigar and getting that kind of flavor in a row. Not just the smoke that you're pulling into your room, the room note. See, today it's been loam, it's been room note. This is why you're on. Oh, you do?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, we'll get to those in the next segment, and we're really excited about doing the tasting and finding out more about where the Buena Vista Cigar Club got its start, where it got its name. And I can already tell you, it's going to come highly recommended by me, because I've already had a good time here.
This place has a great feel to it.
Yeah, great feel, great vibe, great music, and great smokes. We'll be back with more. You're listening to Smokin' and Toastin'. I kind of just looked at the clock and sort of guessed on the
you're perfect. You're on the money. You're on the money. Yeah, it's 13.
My internal clock is like...
it was beautiful.
Not bad these days.
Why are you so good at this?
This is a very, very nice
84?
What's
So
that?
84? 84 episode?
Yes, number 84. Oh, wait, let me look.
I think it's 84.
I believe that's right, but let me double check. 83.
Oh, 83 is it?
83. Also need to
That on top.
So,
You can always put that into post-production.
yeah.
Okay, so I need to run to the restroom.
Show number
I gotta run to the
83.
restroom, guys. I'll be right back.
You know, the obvious edit.
Show number 83. And it doesn't match my mouth.
No one will notice.
Yeah,
right? It'd be really awesome if we could do a show where we could just offset the audio and video enough to where the whole thing feels like a classic kung fu flick.
Oh yeah. So you think they're better than me? No. Okay. That's all right. So we'll set up into the 805 and we'll keep trying.
Will be here soon. She's like, and I was like, I just
No worries. No worries.
but
We'll give you one.
Awesome.
When he comes in, I'll probably put him here and scoot.
Yeah, but we got to walk him in here because we have that over there. Unless we can move that chair over there out of the way, and then we can walk around it.
All right. So that on his back will be right.
Oh, just yeah. Good stuff.
Yes, indeed.
I do like the vibe here. It's pretty fun.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Will we lose our engineer to the restroom today?
I don't understand. What is it? What must be it?
He mumbled. I saw him turn left and go down the street.
Yeah, here it comes.
this is good.
You enjoy that?
You've been looking away. I'm having
All right, we are ready.
hard draw on this.
Are you setting? You want me to set a timer?
I'm just going to kind of watch the clock since we're going to be exact.
All right.
I know what time we started.
You watch the clock. I've forgotten. Stopped watching the Facebook.
Ready when y'all are.
Ready?
Ready when y'all are.
Yeah, if you close Facebook and stop up in the air a little.
Ah, there we go. Live.
All right, go.
Look at us staring at our phones.
Yep, here we go. Segment 2.
Ready.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. It's Smoking and Toasting. We are on show number 83, by the way. I didn't mention that at the top of the show. We'll have to put it in post-production like you were mentioning during the break.
Right.
Yeah.
Welcome to Smoking and Toasting. Show number 83.
But we are live at the Buena Vista Cigar Club in Beverly Hills, and we are brought to you by our wonderful friends back home at B&B Butchers and Restaurant. They are located on Washington Ave in Houston and in the shops at Clear Fork in Fort Worth. And our next road trip will likely be to B&B in Fort Worth, so we're looking forward to that.
I'm excited about that one.
I understand
Mostly
that.
because I haven't been there in a while and I miss the bacon.
Plus, I know, it's amazing. Plus, I understand plans are afoot to get a little rock and roll band out of Dallas to be on the show that has their own beers. So more details on that coming up. Yeah, very exciting. So I wanted to mention that a little bit later on the show, we'll be telling you about some of the changes in the law that have gone down this week. Now, when I say changes in the law, they're mostly changes to the bills that are likely to become law. But some good news, finally, for cigar aficionados. You look like an aficionado to me. Some good news, finally, for cigar aficionados from Washington and from New York.
I just
so we'll
want
tell you
to
about
say,
that. Yes.
I am the law. Okay. I actually couldn't resist doing
You couldn't
that.
resist it. I knew you couldn't. I left it out there for you.
I know you thought for a minute there that I would say
left
something
it-
pertinent to our conversation.
I left it out there for you.
But I couldn't stop myself.
And that's why you're loved and adored in the
Right.
Smoking and Toasting community. So
This is just what I do.
So I had them bring up from the bar here at the Buena Vista Cigar Club the beer that I mentioned in the last segment. This baby has shown up everywhere when I've been in Los Angeles on taps in the lineup of bottles where you'll be someplace ordering a beer, you look at the bottles, and there it is. And it is a beer from Firestone Walker called the 805. In fact, I wonder if you could hand me that bottle over there, Brianna, and just thank you very much. This is what the bottle looks like. It's a very simple labeled bottle. It says properly chill, and fortunately our friends here at Buena Vista have done just that because it's nice and cold in my hand. And it's 805. I will admit that I don't know what 805 means. It reminds me of like, remember the Rolling Rocks always had 33 on them and nobody knew what 33 meant?
Right.
Yeah. From the glass line tanks of old Latrobe and all that, but nobody knew what 33 meant. It meant something.
It still says that same thing on the cans.
Interesting. Well, the only thing I know about 33 is that used to be what, if you were like writing for a newspaper, you would put 33 at the end of your article. That meant that's the end. As a way of like saying fine or the end. Yeah.
So
but I don't know whether maybe it's supposed to be the be-all, end-all of the beer world. I don't know. If so, they missed the mark a little. I will have to say that.
You know, it was a great beer while it lasted. Then it got bought out. Then it was not as great a beer.
Yes. It was,
now
there was a time, though, that I was loving life with...
now you can buy 30 of them for something like $20 at the local HEB. And you know, for giggles, because I'm not snobby, I was like, I'll try it. It's not.
Yeah, it's not what it used to be. So, fortunately, I have higher hopes for the 805. So on the first, well, interestingly enough, this doesn't taste like it's going to be overly hoppy, but it's got a little bit of a wheaty, malty character to it, even on the nose.
It smells good.
Yeah, I know you've done your research on this, but...
I have done my research on this, and my tasting notes are as follows.
Okay, tell me about them. That's a good tasting
yes,
note.
please.
Yes.
So those are two thoughts about it. But what you really get on here is a light, malty ale that's very sessionable, very easy to drink. The hop profile is very minimal on this. There's almost not even there. This to me is what a beer like Budweiser aspires to be.
That's a good way to put it, because it's a very, and I say this with love, it's a very mainstream tasting beer.
Yes.
But nothing about what I just said should be interpreted as bad. It's wonderful. It's got a wonderful flavor to it.
So what it has, though, and it has a sweet breadiness to it that's really nice, reminiscent of like a Fat Tire as well. Like Fat Tire has some of that sweet biscuity.
Fireman's 4 has got a little bit of that to it as well. Yeah.
Although Fireman's 4 has a lot more hop profile than this. This, to me, like, to back up my further statement, this is what I think a beer like Budweiser would aspire to be, because Budweiser has a lot of these qualities, but it doesn't have them in enough abundance to make it an interesting drink for me most of the time. Right. This has all of those qualities that you would want in a beer that's light, easy to drink. It has all of those things, and it has them in just the right profile, and it's balanced, and it's delicious. And when you're done with that sip, you're done with that sip, and it's, and you want another one.
It's almost like drinking a deliciously citrusy piece of bread.
Kind of, yeah.
It has all those flavors to it, but it's delicious and thirst quenching. It's a very thirst quenching, sessionable type of beer. And I'll say this: they've got it really, really cold here, which is exactly how you want this beer. This is not a beer you want to do the room temperature thing on.
You want it cold. Tell you, I don't think that room temperature would hurt this one too much.
Really?
I think that I could probably drink this. Now, I haven't tried this yet, and maybe it's worth setting some aside and trying in a later segment and saying, okay, how is that at more of a room temperature? Because I'm interested in it now. And what I found is more multi-profile beers don't get that nasty bitterness that you get with the beers, when they get warm. Those generally really hoppy beers you want to drink pretty cold.
Right. Yeah, I agree. That's what I would say.
It's not 100% rule,
but I would say also that the hoppier beers can sometimes interfere with the flavor of a cigar. And when you've got a cigar that's as rich and really fully delicious as this Jaime Garcia Reserva Especial that I'm smoking, you would hate to bitter that out. You really would, because it's not a bitter cigar at all. And some of the hoppier things could have that effect on it. This does not. You can drink as many of these as you want, and the beer's not going to get in the way of your enjoying what's going on here. In fact, if anything, that sort of yeastiness is going to complement the cigar.
It complements and works with it. And what's fun about that is I'm smoking such a mild cigar. that if this was a big IPA, it would pretty much bowl over my cigar.
Yeah.
And this cigar, which has this subtle, wonderful creaminess and cedary and nutty flavors, works really well with the profile in this 805. So, you know, I'm for it. I like actually this combination is quite good.
Yeah, it really, really is. Well, I'm certainly enjoying this cigar. It's maturing a little bit. I'm picking up some like dark berry type fruit notes on the finish on this. It's really, really nice. Has that changed at all since you started smoking
This
it?
cigar has mellowed even from where it was, but that doesn't mean it doesn't have flavor. It's mellowed in its profile. It's picked up a lot more of the cedar side of things, but it still has that creamy and nuttiness going on with it, that classic tobacco flavor. The room note on this cigar is just gorgeous. It's burning perfectly. It doesn't hold much of an ash. I haven't been particularly rough with it, but it doesn't hold much of an ash, but it burns nice and cool and even.
And burning nice and straight, too. Yeah, it really is. Well,
So kudos on construction on that one.
I've always been impressed by the way they put their cigars together at Arturo Fuente. They're not a company that went through that sort of downswing during the cigar boom. So many companies, their quality suffered because of how difficult it was to get good tobacco during the cigar boom and right after. And somehow Arturo Fuente seemed to avoid that. I don't know how they did it. Maybe they just had their own, had enough of their own tobacco that they were growing and just decided not to make more cigars than they could make. Because that's where a lot of the companies got in trouble.
Right, when they're trying to catch up with the market.
Right, the market was there to sell more, but they couldn't sell more unless they used some really inferior tobacco. So that was one of the things that was so frustrating about the cigar boom to so many. And so many people were trying cigars for the first time during the boom and maybe not getting the real impact of what a really good cigar should be, because those were a little harder to find, quite frankly, during the boom. It was a little crazy like that. So I noticed you have gone for a relight. So I'll be interested to see your thoughts.
No penalty at all.
No penalty. That's what
just
I like
so you
to
know,
hear.
when you watch me relight that, when my cigar started going out a little bit, instead of pulling smoke through it, I actually pushed smoke out, blowing instead of sucking the smoke in, because that'll push any stale smoke out. And then I heat the cigar on the end gently until it's lit, and then again I blow and then puff. And that relight right there is, well, no penalty at all. Great cigar.
I have had a number of cigars.
Still dead even.
I've had a number of cigars recently that there haven't been relight penalties on, but the last time I had one that there was, I so noticed it. Like it was so you don't have to wonder whether there's a relight penalty or not, because if it's there, it's like whoa, a little harsh, but not the case there. Now my Jaime Garcia has not gone out yet, but if it does, I'll let you know at whatever point that happens.
What you want to
do
do is you want to not have to know about the relight penalty.
Right.
But it is nice to know, like certain cigars you relight, they just don't relight well.
Well, and doing the show, we may stop to talk or be sampling something and leave it alone for a long enough period of time that it could very legitimately go out, and that does happen. So all right, there is a lot still to come on the show. We are hoping to talk with Rigo Fernandez, who's the proprietor here at the Buena Vista Cigar Club. We are going to be telling you more about how these cigars smoke as they burn down. We're going to be tasting some more California beers, and we're going to do a little spirit tasting coming up next. You are listening to Smokin' and Toastin', and what's going on with cigars and the law?
I am the law.
Yeah, that's coming up as well. You're listening to Smokin' and Toastin'.
Thanks, I like that setup.
That wasn't obvious or anything.
Can I see the
So,
lighter?
do we want to? Do we know which whiskey we want to get?
I don't know.
You guys
yeah.
can taste a longer than a rye, but you can try it.
Well, you did the bullet. We've had
both.
You have a bullet.
Yeah, so I want to.
I'm just going to go down the price list and pick the one with the highest number.
Okay, good. That's a great way to do it.
That means it's rated better.
Yeah, because expensive means more better.
Always.
It's okay. I appreciate you trying.
I just said she was like, I'm behind the scenes.
You're like, have you seen those two guys? Come on.
Please. The two handsome guns upstairs who are on the show.
See, my wife told you to say that.
I gotta tell you, I was having some trouble on the jaw on this.
Were you? I saw
not
you
sure
poking it on the.
Yeah, I don't
Why
know.
don't you? Why don't you take the scissors and snip it a little?
More on there?
Yeah, just snip. In other words, just snip a little more off
Yeah.
the end. What are those
You're right.
scissors? Yeah. That may help you.
I mean, I was poking it, and that helped,
Yeah.
but it just kept on, for some reason, closing back up. That was weird.
Sometimes when I do that, it takes a little extra. Make sure the action with it. Take a little extra off of it can help. And then sometimes just kind of massage it gently with your fingers. Kind of roll it around with a little bit of pressure. If it's got a little spot where it's packed tightly, that can impact it. So.
Yeah.
All right. All right. Fantastic. So we're gonna want to put that.
Yes.
So that'll be here. That'll be half a minute. Yeah. Perfect.
All right.
Yes.
Do you want the remainder?
Yes, please. And while we're on Facebook Live, I'd just like to say hi to the Haas clan is all watching.
To the who?
Haas clan.
Hi, Haas clan. What up? Well, that's a very nice of them to watch. I'm very happy to have them on board. It's interesting doing the show later at night because although it's still sunny here in Los Angeles, but it's definitely evening time on the East Coast and the Central Time Zone.
Yeah, that 2 hours time difference, by the way.
I know. It doesn't seem like much, but it is. It is.
Brandon.
It is.
Awesome.
All right. All right. Are we ready to rock? All right, kids. Here we go.
All right. We are ready when you are.
Welcome back, my friends. It's Smoking and Toasting. We are live from the Buena Vista Cigar Club in beautiful downtown Beverly Hills, California. It almost feels like a game show, you know, live from Hollywood, California.
I love that.
Wheel of Fortune. No, but it's not a game show at all. We're in a really wonderfully apportioned cigar lounge. By the way, one of the things that is awesome about the Buena Vista, full bar here at the Buena Vista, and it's a real treat. You don't see that at a lot of the cigar lounges.
BYOB.
Yeah, I do know, by the way, that our friends at the Cafe Casa de Monte Cristo in Houston, there by 610 and 59, have applied for a liquor license for that location. So
that's a nice
that
spot.
all goes through. It's a nice spot. Great guys, great friendly employees there. Fun guys to hang with. So we'll look forward to that. But a lot of places, you know, you can bring your own, and some places like, you know, our bud Manny El Cabana Lopez has got a bottle of the Havana Club rum stuck away that he might share with you if you ask real nice. So,
I need to make it down there.
Too.
I'm out of the cigars.
Yes,
too.
I know. Manny, props to you. We've said this on a previous show, but we are overdue to come back and see you.
And he does a thing, I think, is it on Thursday nights where he does Rock the Shop and he plays classic albums?
Yes, it's very cool.
That's pretty awesome.
He's got a lot of really cool and different ideas for that shop, and I'm very impressed by what he's done. This shop it's in Beverly Hills, but it does not have a Beverly Hills pretentiousness to it at all.
No. One of the ways that they got around the laws here on Beverly Hills or in Beverly Hills, because you can't smoke inside, you can't smoke outside, is when you step through the door, you actually go into an alternate dimension.
That's what I understand. Yes,
It's actually the door is a portal to another dimension, and as much as I joke about that, it actually feels like that because
It kind of does.
Old school.
Outside, it's very sort of shiny Beverly Hills, and in here, it's just vibey.
This looks almost like a hunting lodge mixed with old Cuban
artwork and a lot of Cuban photos, black and white photos and stuff are framed in on the wall. Plenty of different cigar memorabilia, and a lot of places do have that.
There's tons of antlers and hunting stuff up top, but there's also a whole wall over here of classic baseball pictures.
The place feels old in a very good way.
Yes.
If that makes sense.
Yes.
It feels old in the way that
Old
antiques
and
feel old, old and comfortable, yeah. The chairs are just like, they're comfortable because they're old chairs that people have been sitting in for a long time, and then they've survived and made it because they're comfortable, not because they're sort of a newfangled thing trying to get a scientific approach to comfort. These are just from back when people knew how to make chairs. That's the vibe that this place has. So Ian, I know you selected a whiskey for me to taste, but before we go there, give me an update on your cigar.
So my cigar, going into its halfway point, has maintained its smooth creaminess, and actually the smoothness and the creaminess are ramping up to epic proportions. Epic smoothness is what's happening here. The cedar profile has backed off a little bit, and now I just get this classic tobacco nuttiness and wonderful, the creaminess is a little hard to describe. It's almost like a mocha creaminess, but it's not a real chocolatey mocha tasting cigar, but it's that kind of creaminess to it. There might be a hint of that, but it's a little hard to tell when we mix that with the previous taster that we had, because that malt profile can interfere a little bit. But this cigar is still, I haven't smoked one of these in so long, and being one of the earliest cigars that I ever tried, is still standing up, and it's everything I ever wanted from it. The
Jaime Garcia, I don't know if this is partially a result of the sort of yeastiness of the 805 that we're sampling in the last segment, but it's developed almost a sweet taste on the tongue, not necessarily on the draw, but after you exhale and when you're kind of on the finish, there's this little tickle of sweetness on the tongue that I really was not expecting from this cigar.
I may have to pick one of those up before I leave.
Very pleasant. Yeah, very pleasant, but it wasn't at all what I was expecting.
And I eyeballed that one pretty hard when I was looking in the case too, and then I got nostalgic and had this instead.
Well, had you done this, I probably would have gone there. So we probably would have wound up with the same two cigars. So what am I going to be trying here, Ian? This is a oh my goodness, this smells terrific.
It does. This is. Well, let's do this. Let's do this first before we go anywhere.
Oh, you're going to blind taste this?
I want you to blind taste this, okay?
So this is. I know that this is something that they serve here at the Buena Vista Cigar Club. Beyond that, I have no idea what this is.
So I want your opinion on the quality of it before we go further. And I can tell you I've done plenty of research on this particular distillate, and I enjoy it. And it usually is on my shelf.
Okay, so the first thing I'm going to tell you is that I like it.
Yes.
It's very pleasant mouth flavor to it. My first reaction is, well, that is certainly a whiskey.
Yes.
Because it tastes like a whiskey.
Yes.
Then I get a little bit of this sort of honey sort of feel and taste on the tongue that's very different from the sweet flavor that I was describing, which is more bready from the cigar. It's really, I definitely want to try. It almost tastes like a more sophisticated version of what your grandma might make you if you had a cold, a little lemon honey tea with a little shot of whiskey in it. That
is one of the best things I've ever heard you say about this. So this is one of my absolute standard go-tos on the shelf. And because you said that, let me give you the tasting notes straight off of their website. Before I give up what this actually is, it says the aroma is spice, tea, and hint of peppermint.
Interesting.
It says the taste is spice, lightly bodied, gentle bite, and the finish is dry, clean, and brief. And I can agree with all of those. Whoever wrote that was well versed in it. This is Basil Hayden's.
Basil Hayden's, really?
Basil Hayden's.
This is one of the oldest names in whiskey, isn't it?
Right, and on a good day, like if you buy it at an expensive place, it's $40 a bottle. Generally,
expensive place.
Yes.
Yeah.
Generally speaking, and that expensive place, by the way, is a little shop around the corner from my house. But if you go somewhere that's less expensive than a little shop around the corner from my house, you can usually get it in the upper 30s.
Really?
And it is just a delight. It's sweet. It's got a nice round-bodied flavor to it. It goes with almost everything.
I will tell you that the one thing I wouldn't have guessed is that this was an inexpensive
it's
whiskey.
not a real
when
pricey
I
whiskey.
took the blind taste test, I wouldn't, because it doesn't kind of roll around the mouth like a good but less expensive whiskey. It tastes like it's something that is a little pricey.
What I enjoy about this is it's so sweet, and that tea leaf kind of flavor to it that you picked up on immediately is one of my favorite things about this because it has this refreshingness to it that you don't generally get in a whiskey of all things, right? Mm-hmm. So this is a great standby, and also this is one of those where when you're standing there looking at your liquor shelf and you have 20-something odd bottles of whiskey, and you go, because I know everybody here does, and you go, I don't know what I want. This is the go-to for that.
So this is the one you choose when you don't know what to choose,
right? And I also, not to blow Basil Hayden's horn too much, but I also happened to be up at the New Potato one night.
Love the New Potato.
And, yeah, I love that bar. And they had the Two-Hearted Ale.
The Two-Hearted Ale from Bell's.
From Bell's, thank you. I was blanking on that. And I decided to have a glass of that. And I looked over at the shelf and I asked the bartender, I said, why do you have 2 bottles of Basil Hayden right next to each other? He goes, well, one of them's a rye. I said, Basil Hayden makes a rye? And he goes, well, yes, they do. Would you like to taste it? And I said, well, yes, I would.
Well, yes, I would, yes.
And I ran into one of the best pairings. I think I've even mentioned this on the show. One of the best pairings ever was Basil Hayden rye
and Bell's Two-Hearted Ale.
Bell's Two-Hearted Ale.
Interesting.
Like, those two things are so good together. But this has been a standard on my liquor shelf for a long time. This one, like, a few of these bottles in this price range that I never go without are generally going to be Knob Creek, which is just a good standby as well.
Right.
It's going to be Basil Hayden, and it's going to be Buffalo Trace and Eagle Rare. Those are
is this the rye or is this the?
No. This is the straight Kentucky.
That's what I thought. Yep.
And it's funny too because all this flavor happens, and it's at 40%.
Wow.
It's at 80 proof. It's not over proof.
Not a
or
huge
anything
high
like
proof.
that.
Yeah.
And it's surprising that you get that much flavor. I generally like, much like Chris Hart said last time he was on, he likes those big overproof flavors. He likes that.
Right. I was just about to say, don't hate us, Chris Hart. This is a really good whiskey.
No,
don't hate on us.
Bang for the buck. This is a great whiskey. If I put this on the price versus quality scale, the price versus quality index,
huge. Yes.
Then I'm going to give this a 6 to a 7 at least because I really believe you're getting more than you pay for.
I would agree with you there.
Bottle.
It also is a very nice pairing with this cigar, and I'm going to almost guess it's a nice pairing with almost any cigar. Wouldn't you say?
I haven't actually run into a cigar that clashes with it, and I think that it's got a friendly enough profile. But the other thing too is it's not outside of the price range to use as a mixer too. Mm-hmm. I mean, it's a higher end mixer, but man, that's going to make a
great old fashioned.
Yeah,
isn't it?
old fashioned. And a lot of people like to use rye. This is very sweet, so the old fashioned, if you like your old fashioned real sweet, that's going to give a lot of that profile to it.
It's delicious. I wanted to mention just before we close this segment, and if you're watching on Facebook Live or YouTube, you can see what my cigar is doing here, which is my first thing I've been less than thrilled with about this Jaime Garcia, but the burn has grown uneven on the wrapper around one side. Now, in fairness, that's probably my fault because I've been talking and drinking and haven't probably been smoking it as evenly as I should have. But I will say it's not been as forgiving of that as I like.
That's pretty far. You're going to have to tend that.
Yeah, I'm going to tend it, and I'll do it during the break, and I'll let you know how it holds up to the tending. Yours, I saw you touch it up, and you said it held up beautifully, no penalty, nothing.
I actually relit mine twice, and there's no penalty yet.
So we'll see. I have not relit this one yet, and as it's been doing this for a minute, I've been kind of watching it, and I haven't really had an opportunity to set the mic down and light it. So I'm going to do that during the break, and we'll be right back. We'll tell you how this does. This is not an inexpensive cigar, so I'm going to look this up to see if I'm right, but I believe it's an $11 to $12 cigar.
I believe so.
So I'll look that up and find out how right. But I've been loving the flavor. If I can touch this back up and not lose any of that, I'm going to be pretty happy. If it suffers, though, that P to Q is going to go down just a little bit. So, all right. So it's Smoking and Toasting. We're live at the Buena Vista Cigar Club in beautiful Los Angeles. We're in Beverly Hills, actually, and we're really excited to be
Does
here.
anybody have a Weezer song stuck in their head?
We love California. We tolerate Weezer, and we'll be right back.
See, I stuck it to myself. Now all I can think is gimme. I'm a little surprised that's done that.
Yeah. Well, like I said, it's probably my fault because I wasn't smoking it as evenly as I thought. All right, I'm going to take a look at what we have.
I just want to say thanks, Matthew, for the good wishes, and Brandon and family. And Patrick Farrell, I see you out there.
Facebook Live, we thank all of you for what's going on. I'm going to step past you
sir.
Here, and
I think I have
for our
to.
next segment. Yeah, I think so. So we'll be right back. Facebook Live. Actually, we'll be on for a second, unless I broke the mic, in which case will be longer. I apologize about that thumb. Right about that.
This is the one from Highland, right? Sure.
Okay. That's great. I love that. All right. I shall be ready when you are, and we'll go with that. We'll go with that IPA next. All right, ready to come back, my man? Really surprisingly good, this
Isn't it?
And this cigar was amazing.
Oh, I'm so glad you liked it. That's great.
I am so.
Are you chilled out?
I am like.
That's great. All right, we ready, Adam?
We're rolling.
Welcome back. It's Smoking and Toasting live from the Buena Vista Cigar Club in beautiful downtown Beverly Hills. We are not only live from here, but we are brought to you by our friends, and we need to do another live show at B&B as well. We're brought to you by our friends at B&B Butchers and Restaurant. It's time to go and it's time to go do a show at B&B and then stay and drink some of the amazing whiskeys that Jeremiah's got there and have a really nice steak dinner. Doesn't that sound amazing?
So, you guys, if you follow the show for a while, you've seen Jeremiah. And I just want to let you know that Jeremiah is a busy guy. Jeremiah, in my mind, looks just like the Tasmanian Devil when he's at work.
Yes, and he sounds a little like the Tasmanian Devil at times, too. thing that he's got going on. But we love that about him, and he's one of our favorite guys.
He's a great
I wanted
guest
to
on the show.
I wanted to mention a couple of things, and then I want to tell you about my relight on Jaime Garcia. But the first thing I wanted to mention is that Adam, who's our engineer, we always say Adam on the wheels of steel. His fiancee Brianna is along with us on this show, and she just smoked a Rocky Patel Decade Robusto while we were doing the first couple of segments of the show, and she's over there just like with this huge grin on her face.
That's a great
She
cigar.
loved the cigar, and it's a great cigar. It's one of my it's one of my go-tos when when I'm someplace and I really don't know what to do. I was like, I'm either going to try something I don't know, or I'm going to go with the Rocky Patel Decade. It's just, it never disappoints. All right. I have done the relight. You remember I showed you this, if you're on Facebook Live, how this was uneven.
What we call a run.
Yep, a run was happening. I touched it up. The first thing I'm happy about is that it touched up easily. Sometimes when you touch up a run, it kind of burns right up for you and reestablishes. Sometimes you got to keep tending it and tending it and tending it. So the first thing I'm happy with is my cigar looks pretty even again. Second thing I'm happy with is there was a brief, maybe one or two puffs with a little harshness, and that has now completely dissipated. I'm back to full enjoyment of this cigar, and the flavors are still there. I didn't mess it up, I guess is what I'm trying to say. I'm pretty happy with that. Where are you on your Arturo Fuente?
I'll tell you, this particular Arturo Fuente is falling a little bit flat right now.
Okay.
And this is the unfortunate thing is,
I see it's maybe peeling a little bit.
I relit it twice, and I didn't have a penalty. But after the second relight, now I'm getting a little further. I'm getting a little bit of harshness, but also I'm getting a little bit of flaking going on the wrapper.
I see the wrapper flaking
now,
a little bit.
This is not enough to be annoying yet. It's enough to where I can just hold my cigar proper. But it's probably going to make it burn a little uneven. But what I'm more interested in is, let's see if that the dual relights and a little bit of flaking makes it more harsh than it is.
Because it's such a mildly pleasant cigar.
It is
that it's hard to imagine that being harsh. You know?
This cigar will load up flavor wise a little bit and become a little bit bigger at the very end. In my experience, I'm hoping that it doesn't become a bitter cigar at the very end of this. And this would be, and I'll tell you right off the bat, this would be this cigar's problem, not this whole line's problem.
Right.
I've had many of these, and they smoke great.
And
every
look,
time.
even the very best cigars in the world will sometimes have one that will have a construction issue
These
or the
are
wrapper
a
doesn't. It's a
product.
handmade product, so they're going to be what they are. Brianna, I wonder if you would be so kind as to hand me the bottle on this next beer that we are going to talk about here on the show. And this is something that is, I've never seen this outside of California. It is the Carl Strauss Brewing Company Big Barrel IIPA. I'm not even sure.
IIPA?
Yep, see? Look at that. That says IIPA on the bottle.
IIPA.
And I'm not sure exactly what an IIPA is, but here's what it says. It says, Big Barrel IIPA rides alone in the crowded sea of hoppy brews. This effervescent brew pours bright and golden with a juicy aroma of grapefruit and melon bursting from the glass. And we'll see if I can pick that up or not. Vibrant berry and citrus flavors envelop your senses with every sip. Big Barrel's unique characteristics come from Nelson Sauvin hops imported from New Zealand. Warrior and I apologize for how small the print is and how tough it is for me to read this. Altananum hops add an assertive bitterness. Big hops, big flavor. Yeah, this one's a big deal. It's handcrafted from San Diego, California, and I want to hand that back to you. So I'm real interested to try this, and I'm hopeful this will be one of the really good hoppy IPAs.
Okay, and while you're doing your research on this particular IPA, while the drum roll is happening, I want to revisit something we talked about earlier, which was the 805, and what would it taste like if it's not cold?
Okay, because
after thorough research, after thorough research, and it's sitting there and getting warm, it still tastes fine.
That's good to know.
Even flat, it's a little flat, and I like to have a little bit of carbonation in a. You're like, it's a little flat, but you know what? The flavor held up. It didn't get bitter. It didn't get yuck.
Right.
Didn't get weird. It was actually still quite drinkable.
And I will tell you, we were comparing it to a bigger brand, mainstream beer, and, not for nothing, dilly, but there's nothing in the world worse than a flat, warm Budweiser.
Ugh.
It's horrible.
Ugh.
Like, I will drink a Budweiser if it's nice and cold.
That makes me vomit a little bit in the back of my mouth.
But yeah, but a warm Budweiser is not a happy thing. It really isn't. And I try to maintain a certain aura of happiness these days because, when you get to a certain age, it's just not worth being unhappy anymore.
Right.
You got a lot of your life behind you and maybe a little bit to go. Let's make it as happy as possible. And warm beer, especially warm, mainstream beer, does not make me happy. So that's good to know that can warm up a little bit.
That actually, I had no problem with that.
Now, I would like to talk to you about the Big Barrel IIPA.
I have not experienced the IIPA. So if you talk, I will experience.
Okay, I am in love. This is fantastic. This is one of my favorite IPAs that I have tasted in a very long time. What I read you off the side of the bottle about the grapefruit and some of the flavors, not inaccurate at all. I'm impressed. Thoughts?
So, first off,
I don't know if this is your kind of IPA.
just putting this up to my nose, when you say citrus, like this is a citrus bomb.
It is, but it's not one of those juicy IPA type.
No.
It's not the New England hazy juicy IPA.
No.
It is a citrus bomb, and I love that because, and I talk about this all the time on the show, I love IPAs, I love hops, but I like to have a beer when I'm smoking a cigar. And some IPAs that I really enjoy if I'm not having a cigar really ruin the cigar experience for me with the bitterness. The more citrusy ones, I get the hops, but I also get the citrus on the finish that keeps me from feeling like it's going to bring the bitterness to my cigar. And I'm going to take a big draw now and tell you how it does. But
Do that. This has such an interesting middle profile that follows right down the center of the tongue and leaves a sweetness on the aftertaste. There's a little dryness like you get from a wine, like almost a little astringency on the end, but in a wonderful, wonderful place. Or a wonderful, wonderful way. But it leaves a sweet aftertaste.
right.
Like, I was not expecting that at all.
No.
That's very unique to this. And the upfront bright, like, punch of flavor is very reminiscent of some of the Stone Brewery's IPAs. It has that big, bold flavor, but not bold in a I'm just trying to be strong, and bold in a I'm making a big, strong beer kind of way. But then it finishes with that sweetness that I was not expecting at all. There's almost no bitterness to the aftertaste.
Yes, and that's what's different about this from the Stone. And we all know I love the Stone. The whole line is. I've never had one I haven't liked on some level. But some of those are a little difficult to pair with a cigar. And this brings in that sweetness and that citrus that makes it pair. And I've just taken a really nice long draw of this, really continued to enjoy the flavor of the Jaime Garcia. And it has not been impacted negatively at all by the Big Barrel IIPA. Very, very impressed with this beer. Very impressed.
So I will tell you, I enjoy this. However, it has destroyed my cigar.
Really?
Yeah.
Now that's interesting.
There's no flavor left in my cigar.
Because it's a milder cigar. And
because
it's
my cigar is a much more delicate, much more mild flavored cigar. And when you put something this bold in front of it, you just don't taste it.
Now this one is holding up.
Well, that's a much bolder cigar.
Yes, absolutely.
So this is where the pairing really
that's
makes
why
a
it's
big
important.
difference.
And that's it's something I really hope that as the show continues to develop, that we talk more and more about that. Some wonderful beers and wonderful cigars work great together, and some wonderful beers and wonderful cigars don't work so great together.
Well, this is easy. We just have to convince the studio to let us smoke in the studio.
Well, wouldn't that be great? I can see
that's super easy.
Maria, who owns the building our studio is in, if you're watching, we're just kidding. I can see him shuffling down the hallway now to Mario. I love him, but he's like Mr. Tudball on the old Carol Burnett show. That's how he walks down the hall. It's pretty funny. So this is terrific IPA, and I apologize for killing your cigar. But again, these are the things, when we do research, we enjoy what we do, but it is always important for us to be able to uncover these things so we can share them with people. And it's not like we're the only people who could find this out.
We're
just
that
lucky
so
enough
that you don't have to.
Yeah, that's right. See,
If
that's
you
the
get
way
the
it works.
IPA, make sure you have a medium to full-bodied cigar.
Right. Or drink it without the cigar and maybe do something to cleanse your palate and have the cigar later.
And if you want a great pairing, try the Basil Hayden and pair it with that Arturo Fuente that I just had. They're a great pair together.
So let me
Sometimes
give you
win.
Let me give you a quick little update on cigars and the law. We have a major victory to celebrate today, and that is that what we've talked about on a couple of the past shows about a potential black market for cigars in New York because cigars were about to be taxed according to a new bill that was coming on at 75% of the wholesale price. Current tax level for cigars in New York is about 25% of the wholesale price. The cost to the cost that we're going to have to be marked up to, and already cigars can't sell for less than $8 in New York.
Which is just crazy.
Which is nuts. But on top of that, there was going to be the 75% on the wholesale tax. That has now been taken out of the bill in its final form. So it means that the bill, the spending bill that it's on, or the tax cut bill that it's on, or the tax increase bill that it's on, can pass or fail, and it won't matter on the cigar front. So a huge victory for New Yorkers, a huge victory for people like us who like to travel to New York and go and smoke in some of New York's finest cigar stores and lounges and maybe some of their not so finest cigar stores and lounges, but it's a fun thing to do, and so a major victory. Now,
I don't know that I've ever actually been in a seedy cigar lounge.
no, that's a really good point. Seedy is not right. Some are more elaborate than others.
Yeah.
And some, like where we are here at the Buena Vista Cigar Club, it's elaborate in the most homey kind of a way.
Yeah.
That's why it's so weird that this is in Beverly Hills. This is, I mean, it's very nice, don't get me wrong, but it doesn't feel like that pristine,
No, it's
snobby
such a warm,
Beverly
friendly
Hills. It's a
feel.
very warm, kind of a friendly feel. And this is the kind of place where you could come in for a drink and be here for hours.
Yeah.
You know? It really is. But
You can lose yourself with that.
second bit of legal news I will tell you coming up in our final segment, and we have one more beer to taste. I'm going to enjoy a little more of this IIPA during the break, and we'll be right back. You're listening
Aye,
to
aye, Captain.
Aye, aye. You're listening to Smoking and Toasting. I am what I am, as Popeye used to say.
I am what I am.
Are you old enough to know about Popeye? You're listening to Smoking and Toasting.
So the unfortunate thing is I see that
Do you guys want some more?
I see that
I'm okay here, but we are going to need to choose one more beer from the bar. No, that one, we're going to need one more from the bar. Yeah, so,
Who would like to sell? You want me to ask her for a local, popular?
let's do something darker, like, something darker and maltier, a little more full. Or you want to go down and pick one? Why don't you go down and pick one? Why don't you go down and pick one? Give me a second. Just move it outside. Yeah, thank you. Just in case,
Yeah, I didn't even notice.
yeah, it's all good. It's all good. So Facebook Live, while Ian's gone, can I talk to you? So Facebook Live, while Ian's gone, have you heard his band? I mean, seriously? I don't know what's going on there. I just don't, you know. They say they're a rock and roll band. I'm watching him talk. No, I'm just kind of ragging on him. But when he comes back, tell him that I said great things about his band. And then, like, you know. No, I'm just messing with it. He is the guitar genius. So I will just mention while Ian's selecting our final beer that the Jaime Garcia, this cigar has been incredible. It stood up to everything we've thrown at it, and it is still smoking like a champ. And I feel bad because Ian went with the milder beer, and my IPA just completely threw him off the rails. But we're gonna rectify that situation hopefully by bringing back something in the final situation, in the final segment of the show, that will be perhaps a better match. So for Ian. So love you guys for being here with us in the show at a different time. We are back in the studio next week. And by the way, do we have guests for you next week? Glenfiddich Dave and Mattias Horseman from Hendrix Gin will be on the show next week. It's going to be absolutely awesome, and we're really stoked and excited about it. So be sure and join us. That'll be next Thursday, back at our regular time of right around, it sometimes takes us a minute or two to get started, but right around 1 o'clock Central Time next Thursday on Smokin' and Toastin'. I'm having such a good time at the Beverly Hills Cigar Club, the Buena Vista, Cigar Club in Beverly Hills. Thank you guys for listening. And remember, Ian's on his way back, so I said great stuff about his band. How was my time on the last segment?
Perfect.
Okay, cool.
You're
I'm going
12 to 13 mark every time.
I'm going totally by feel on these. So.
You're killing it.
They didn't have anything.
My phone's dead.
Ian, are you finished up with
Well,
this one?
while you were gone, I was telling people how much I enjoy your band. I was telling people on Facebook Live how much I enjoy your band and how awesome I think you guys are.
Nice. If you search Blackout Vipers on
Blackout
YouTube,
Vipers,
the Blackout Vipers, you get to see me play.
Yeah. He's a good guitar player.
Shameless self-promotion.
He's a good guitar player. I'm telling you that. All right. So may I see the final beer real quick? Oh, it's the Allagash White. Okay. Fantastic. That's nice and cold. Let me hand that back to you. Thank you for the pour. All right.
Bless you.
Bless you. Final
They're
segment.
actually filling up a bit downstairs, too.
Yeah. Rigo hasn't come in, has he?
No, I hadn't seen him.
All right. We were hoping to have Rigo on, but he hasn't made it in yet, so we're just going to continue having fun here at the Buena Vista Cigar Club.
Are we on segment 5? Going on segment 5?
We are in segment 5. Everybody ready? What? No, it's okay. Thank you, though. We're good. We're making it through.
Oh, and hi, Alex.
Alex, you've heard Blackout Vipers, right?
He hasn't, actually.
Oh, okay. Well, check them out on YouTube. You let me know how great they are.
Those guys are crazy.
No, I'm just messing with Ian because I love him. This is my bud here. All right, we ready? Here we go.
I have to tell you, as we have a view from the window here,
Yes.
like some of the cars that are driving by, I've seen Maseratis, I've seen Lamborghinis, I've seen tons and tons of Mercedes going by. There's
you're
a
in Beverly Hills, bud.
very expensive bunch of cars going by.
Yeah, and we drove up in the Toyota Prius from like 1954. When did they start making the Prius? That was 1954, 1955. Yeah, something like it's the Prius Model T, and,
Model T.
and people like it. So, all right, here we go. Segment 5, Smoking and Toasting. Welcome back. It is Smokin' and Toastin', and we're doing both. And by the way, I just want to say cheers to New York because that is fantastic news.
Yeah, so glad.
About the.
So glad for them.
We have so much bad news on the legal front. It seems like that to get good news like this is just. I mean, it's a wonderful, wonderful thing. So, all right, I want to talk about this Jaime Garcia cigar a little more, but we're going to do a little Allagash White in our final segment. And do you know much about this beer, Ian? Is this something you're knowledgeable
I've
in?
had this years ago. Mm-hmm. And Allagash makes great brewery,
yes.
great beers anyway. But when you put this to your nose, like maybe it's just me, I smell like white grape almost.
Well, it's interesting.
And the weedy breadiness. And
So what is a white beer exactly? Like, what makes a beer other than the color, of course, because most white beers are very pale.
Well,
but,
it's, a lot of times it's considered more of a wheat beer. So
Okay.
the wheat profile is bigger than the malt profile.
Some-
it's more
yeah.
weedy than the
Well,
standard.
sometimes when you describe a beer by color, it doesn't always match the color. For example, I've had some pale ales that were not pale at all. They were
Right.
wonderful ales, but they weren't necessarily pale. I've had other beers that were much paler than the quote-unquote pale ales.
I've had red ales that were downright brown.
Even IPA stands for India Pale Ale, and some of the IPAs are really dark and not pale at all. But with a white, you usually can count on it being, well, two things I've noticed about whites. One is that they're generally a whiter, even more somewhere between straw and white in color, and they generally have a very white head of foam on them.
Yes.
So they've got a little bit of that wheat profile. Talk a little bit about Allagash while I take a taste here.
Well, let me tell you what's happening with this thing. This right here is about as refreshing as a wheat beer with grapey kind of and banana fruity flavors, and then
a lot of the wheat beers seem to have a bit of the banana profile.
Yeah. Well, that's that yeast and everything like that. It's very yeasty flavored. There's a little bit of over-ripeness to this, but not a lot. Not enough to make it, not enough to give it a funk. And sometimes funk is a good thing, but not enough to give it a funk. But this is one of the cleanest, most refreshing examples of this style of beer that I think I've actually had. Like, it finishes so clean.
One of our favorite breweries, one of our favorite craft breweries, is called Funkworks.
Yeah.
And it's a great brewery.
And funk is not necessarily a bad flavor.
And as we learned from the boys at Stone, dank can be a good word when it comes to beer as well. Yes. But this is neither funky or dank.
No.
It's very clean.
Yeah.
It drinks very clean, but it has a real interesting flavor to it.
There's so much interesting going on with this. This is, again, this is such a good example of a great white ale. This, like, the retro ale on this has just this banana effervescence.
Oh, big time.
And bright fruity flavors kind of cutting through. If you made this a little darker, it would almost be more like a Belgian style.
I don't know if I would like it as much if it were darker. But it feels like it needs to have this.
Well, I don't want to change
sort
this.
of.
This is great the
yeah.
way it is. I'm just trying to wrap my brain around all the different things that are going on with this particular beer, and it's delicious.
So we've had two beers on today's show that had a bit of a yeasty profile to them: the 805 and the Allagash White. And this particular cigar, the Jaime Garcia Reserva Especial, responds very well to the yeasty flavors. It brings out a sweetness in the cigar that I didn't notice as much with the IPA, even though I would tell you the IPA was a little bit sweeter itself than the white. It's a real nice pairing. Now, I don't know, are you out? Are you going to be able to?
My cigar's out. I'm not going to relight it a third time because I've never experienced a cigar that you relight 3 times that doesn't have a brutal penalty. And besides that, I'm down to the end of a cigar. It's very acceptable to be done with a cigar at this size, sometimes even more. However, that cigar is one of my favorite cigars in existence. I'm a little disappointed with this one that it went out a couple times, had a little construction issue. But I think that it's not because of the brand construction. I think what happened is maybe the box got abused at some point in time. Because Adam had the same cigar as I did, and he had some of the construction issues as well.
His he had some draw problems with.
Right,
yeah.
He had some draw problems. He had that. So I think what may have happened is maybe the box got a little dry and then didn't rehydrate properly, or something like that may have happened. It's a little hard to tell, but
yes.
I have actually never experienced, and especially 2 from the same box, that have had issues. So I can only assume that box suffered some kind of.
And I will say, it's not the humidification here
point.
Because this cigar has been almost perfect, other than that one little problem that I had, and it was sitting like 3 boxes away from the Arturo Fuente in the same humidor. So
right. So due to experience with the cigar and the fact that 2 of them have had issues, I'm assuming that the box suffered some kind of trauma that is abnormal from them. And I am actually standing up and sticking up for Arturo Fuente on this, because I've never had cigar issues like that, let alone 2 in a row.
I just want to mention that if anyone tells you anything about how I feel about your band, I like your band a lot. I really enjoy seeing you guys on YouTube. And you played me a song a while back that I thought was just terrific. Really, really like your band. I know I changed the subject a little, but I just wanted to mention that.
That's good to know, Cruz. Do you have to run off to the bathroom for a minute? I'd like to speak with Facebook for a moment.
Yes. No, I was messing around and ragging on your band a little when you were off selecting the beer. So,
just so you know,
I really was joking, because I do love the Black.
I am very realistic about what my band is. We are Big Dumb Rock.
Yes,
and we don't try to be anything else. We are certainly not going to try and change your political outlooks. We're just trying to rock.
Yes, exactly. And that's and more bands need to do that as far as I'm concerned. Let's bring back, that would be a good t-shirt. Bring back Big Dumb Rock.
Yes.
Yeah, I love it.
Big Dumb Rock.
Let me tell you very quickly that there is the government has promised to review the petitions to get them to strike premium cigars from this big legislation that's been pushing its way through Congress on the federal level. This is the one where cigars would have to have a warning label that was 1/3 the size of the cigar.
It's a little
on
ridiculous.
them. Yeah, a little ridiculous. It also has to do with it has a lot to do with cost and if this legislation goes through, it's a very, very dark day for premium cigars. And the good news is there's some real momentum against premium cigars continuing to be included on this because it's not what the bill's really about anyway.
Right.
Having premium cigars on that really almost requires a misunderstanding of what premium cigars are based on what the bill's trying to accomplish.
You know,
so,
when we did our interview with Rocky Patel last year, he actually mentioned like his role in his company has changed. He's still there for blending. He's still there for different things, but he spends a lot of time working on those issues.
Yes, he
right
does.
there. He spends a lot of time in Washington.
As a matter of fact, and I'll try to come up with a link to this if it's still on the web, which I assume it is, but I got a chance to see a buddy of mine texted me and said, hey, Rocky Patel is on Fox News right now. I'm not a big Fox News viewer, so I wasn't able to get to it to watch it, but I was able to track the clip down on the web, and he was on Tucker Carlson's show talking at length about his concerns about the cigar legislation and how damaging it can be for an industry that is, employs thousands of people. It's a luxury product, just like a craft beer or a fine wine, and doesn't need to be regulated in the way that this bill suggests. And Rocky has been fighting tirelessly, and like you said, he talked about that when we talked to him.
Well,
plus, while you were out, I had Trey Boring as a guest on the show from Cigar Rights of America, and he spoke very eloquently about how off-base this law is and why it needs to be, if there does need to be regulation of the cigar industry further than what we have, which I don't believe there does, this is not the regulation that it needs.
No, it's not.
It doesn't accomplish what it's seeking to accomplish, and it hurts the industry, and it hurts people who are enjoying a product that is not illegal and is not something that is consumed in any way by minors.
Let's talk about the moral implications of this, too. Okay, so cigars are legal, right?
Yeah.
Price gouging is not legal. Don't you think the government, with their taxes, are doing a substantial amount of price gouging?
That's a very good point. That's a very good point.
Why does the government get away with that? Your local gas station, when every other gas station runs out of gas, is not allowed to jack their price up to $8 because they can. That's called gouging.
Well, one of the things that's
they do this on cigars and tobaccos in general so much, it's actually ridiculous. I don't smoke cigarettes anymore, and haven't for years. But even that, that's going into smoking cigarettes that this is bad for you. Cigars aren't the same thing. You're not inhaling cigars, for one. Now, I'm not saying there are no health risks to cigars. Don't misquote me on that.
Right.
However, don't you think that if I can't read a tiny label that says, or it's not even a tiny label, it's a pretty good size label that says smoking is dangerous to your health, do you think I'm going to be able to read one that's 3 or 4 times that size?
Yeah, how is
Because if I
that gonna
can't
be
read
a
it small, I
deterrent?
can't
Right.
read it big.
It
I mean, I
isn't-
am getting old and my eyes aren't so good, but you get what I'm saying.
It isn't about the size
That's
of the
ridiculous.
The warning labels are perfectly large enough to be read.
Yeah,
Perfectly
and they're
large
prominent. They're on the front of every box.
Now, let me-
As a matter of fact, you have these beautiful cigar boxes with this big warning label that just makes it look ugly anyway.
Here's what frustrates me, America. I'm sorry, for a moment I lapsed into talk show host
I saw
mode
that.
there. Did you like that?
Yeah.
No, here's what frustrates me. It's too easy for senators and congressmen who want to be reelected to put a tax on something like tobacco or cigars, because those are not something that are consumed by, 80-90% of Americans. If they put it on your income, which everybody pays tax on their income, those guys might get punished by not being reelected. But putting it on a product like this is just an easy way for these guys to price gouge, as you were saying.
Oh, it's
but
tax
not
price
have to
gouging
pay a
as far as it
penalty for
goes.
it. And what I love about what has happened this go round is that cigar manufacturers and cigar lovers have been very vocal about saying you will pay a penalty for this if you pass this.
Well, and back to your New York conversation earlier. All cigars must cost $8. Even $4 cigars, even $3 cigars,
it's ridiculous.
cost $8 now.
Yes.
Like
It's
that
in New York. It's ridiculous.
And like, how can you even argue that that's not price gouging?
Right. It's ridiculous. It's ridiculous. And what it's designed to do is to keep kids from buying these blunts, because a lot of the kids like to buy these cheap cigars, like your favorite from a past show,
The Black and Mild.
the Black and Mild, and in some cases use them as a disguise to put weed in them. Well, guess what? By the time you get that law passed, weed's going to be legal in New York, and like the whole thing is just pointless.
It's so ridiculous.
It's
so
just
ridiculous.
completely pointless.
Plus, those aren't premium handmade cigars.
No,
one
and-
buys premium
and-
handmade
and-
cigars and dumps a bunch of weed in it.
That's right. And no miners are buying premium handmade cigars.
Well,
look
remember,
around here. You see any
one of
miners
our-
coming in here?
One of our earliest shows, you actually had a study on there. Our FDA actually spent money, your
tax money and mine, yes.
not that they're gouging or anything, but they actually spent your money on a study that came out with, what was the percentage? It was so ridiculous,
right,
it didn't even count. Like,
it was less than 1%.
people under 18 buying handmade cigars
Yeah,
is
it
less than
essentially-
1%.
Yeah, essentially doesn't
Surprise.
exist. Yeah, and I could have told them that and saved us a lot of taxpayer money. All they need to do is listen to me, and if they would listen to me, just think what a better place.
I never
if they would
see-
listen to me, America, this would be a better place.
I never see a 12-year-old coming and going, I need a Rocky Patel Decade series,
It's
please.
not happening. It's not happening. Now, let me talk to you about
Tell
the
me about
Jaime
this.
Garcia. First of all, this has been a fabulous cigar. I've enjoyed it immensely. I think, and I didn't do the research in the break, I apologize, but I believe it's about an $11 cigar. I might be off by $1 or $2. But
You're too
I'm
busy talking about my band.
Yes, and how much I love them. They're fantastic. They're so entertaining. During this last segment, when I was addressing America, this cigar actually went out. And so I did the first full relight. I did a touch-up earlier, did the first full relight. And to be honest, with that much of it left, I was pretty worried. Because not a lot of cigars survive a relight once they're that
Especially at that
far
size,
down.
yeah.
Yes. Not only did it survive, but I'm back to full enjoyment of this. I'm going to proclaim this an absolute winner. This is a fantastic
Give me
cigar.
a price versus quality on that cigar.
Let's say it's $11 because I don't know for sure. And
It's
yeah,
$11.
All right. Thank you for saying that. I'm going to give it a 6.
Nice.
I think it's performing like a $14 or $15 cigar. And I don't smoke a lot of $14 or $15 cigars, but if I did and it smoked like this, I'd feel like I was getting my money's worth.
Awesome.
So I'm very, very impressed. And I have never tried this size before. I have tried Jaime Garcia's cigars before and enjoyed them, but I don't think I've enjoyed them as much
Yeah, that's a
as I've
bigger
enjoyed
ring gauge,
this
I think,
particular
than you
one.
usually smoke,
It is.
too.
I normally like a slightly smaller ring gauge, but this cigar, I don't know whether it was just perfectly conditioned and humidified, but it has smoked like a champ. And my only one complaint was that brief run that it was taking, but when I touched it up, it corrected immediately. And that's about all you can ask for.
That gives
in
it
a premium
character.
cigar. Yeah. We ask a lot of you guys. We move the time of the show around sometimes. We're trying to go on the road and do some interesting and different things, but we so appreciate you finding us on this show. This has been super fun. We wanted to get Rigo Fernandez on, who's the proprietor, but we've not been able to get him. I don't think he's come in yet. I will say, though, that the lounge
filling up
is
down there.
hopping.
Yeah.
And people are down there smoking. I can see smoke coming up in people's cigars, but I don't see any smoke in the air. The smoke eaters are taking care of them.
They have a smoke machine called the Smoke Eater.
smoke eater.
It almost looks like Smoke Katir,
Yes, Moketeer. Well, I'm going to tell you that not only do I recommend this Jaime Garcia very, very highly, not only did I find an IPA that was one of my favorite ones I've tried in a long time, but this is probably one of my favorite places to smoke that I've ever been in. I love this place. I love the people that run it. I did get a chance to meet Rigo when I was in a few nights ago. He was super nice, fun, warm, inviting. He runs a great establishment, and I'm going to encourage you, if you're in the Los Angeles area, you should support this guy because I love what he's doing.
Yeah.
Being an oasis for smokers in the middle of a really tough area for smokers. Yeah. And then I'm also going to say that if you are visiting Los Angeles, and I know a lot of people do, this is you come here to go to Universal Studios or Disneyland or go to Santa Monica Beach or Venice Beach or whatever. This is a place you should spend an evening. Come in here, enjoy. They've got a great bar selection. We've tasted some fantastic beers. The Basil Hayden was terrific. It's been an all-around great experience, and I've enjoyed it. It's fun being on the road with you, and thanks to Adam on the Wheels of Steel and Brianna for being here as well. It's been a really fun show, and I've enjoyed this. The only thing that would be better is if, like, after we finish up here, if we were going to see your band play.
That would be amazing.
Wouldn't that be awesome?
Well, the next time we come out to L.A., we just have to make sure that we're booked at the Whiskey A Go-Go. Mm-hmm. I mean, it doesn't have to be there. It could be the Troubadour, I suppose, or it could be Viper Room. But
or even Molly Malone.
Viper Room would actually be pretty good because we are the Blackout Vipers.
Blackout Vipers. That would make all the sense in the world.
The Viper Lounge, I think, actually is. But.
Thank you, Facebook Live. Thank you to everybody who's downloading the show. And thank you for spreading the word about Smoking and Toasting. We do appreciate it. Find us on Facebook. Like us, follow us on Facebook, whatever it is you're supposed to do. And thank you for being a part of the 83rd episode of this show.
83 episodes of Smoking and Toasting. That's pretty awesome.
Thanks also to our sponsors, the guys at B&B Butchers and Restaurant, for being such awesome sponsors and having such amazing bacon, and for giving Jeremiah a place to do that whirlwind dance that he does that we enjoy seeing so much. I'm going to finally, I think, Ian, let's close the show by toasting to New York, who scored a major victory with the changes in the bill. Cheers to you and to everyone listening and everyone in New York. Cheers. This has been Smoking and Toasting.
Awesome.
That one ran a little longer, didn't it?
Shay, I see you out there. Good to see you're watching.
What up? Thank you. You guys rock.
Bye, Facebook.